Hi children, our today's lesson is Russian Socialist Revolution. Russian Socialist Revolution. In our previous class, the 13th chapter, we discussed the two world wars, the reasons and the consequences of them. In this 14th chapter, this is the second part of the war between wars. In this chapter, we will discuss the situations of Russia in 20th century. Our first point is present status. Before going into lesson, we have to know some facts about present Russia. Do you know who is the president at now? Who is the president at now? Vladimir Putin. The president of Russia is Vladimir Putin. Who is the first president of Russia after 1917 revolution? Vladimir Lenin. The first president was Vladimir Lenin. Present president is Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin. Russia is the largest country in this world. I think all of you know that. It is nearly 5 times bigger than India. 5 times bigger than India. It is also the second largest oil producer of the world. And it is also the powerful country after USA, after America. That is the present situation of Russia. I think all of you look at Russia. Next, social conditions in the past. Social conditions in the past. There was an old dynasty in Russia. The dynasty name was Romanov dynasty. Romanov dynasty. Romanov dynasty ruled the Russian empires nearly 304 years, from 1613 to 1917. This is a ruling period of Romanov dynasty of Russia. The first emperor was Michael I. Michael I, the first emperor. The last was Nicholas II. Nicholas II. The last emperor of the Romanov dynasty was Nicholas II. His ruling period was 1894 to 1917. 1894 to 1917. He was the last Russian emperor. Russian revolution took place in his ruling periods. Finally, he was killed by the Bolsheviks. We will discuss it later. The Tsarist Russia, that means in the 20th century, spread in 2 continents. So that is called Euro-Asian country. Some part of Russia spread in Europe, and some part of Russia spread in Asia. So Russia is called an European, Euro-Asian country. Euro-Asian country. It was the third most populous country in the world after China and India in 20th century, not now. It was the third most populous country in the world after China and India, with a population of 156 million people. 156 million. That was the population of Russia in 20th century, the first half of 20th century. It spreads nearly 15 countries. At present, those are 15 countries. Many different types of nationals were lived in Russian Empire. The most people depended on cultivation, agriculture. Most people depended on agriculture. But unfortunately, the most of the lands was in the hands of feudal lords. That means landlords. They were nearly 10%. 10% of feudal lords have 90% of land in their hands. But the 90% of peasants have 10% land in their hands. So all the farmers, peasants means farmers, all the peasants are very poor, and they took land from the landlords and paid rent for taking them. They were in very poor condition. That was the situation of Russia before the revolution in 1917. Next, Russia and First World War. We have learned that Russia participated in the First World War on Triple Entente sides. Triple Entente side. It is one of the members of Triple Entente. What are the countries of Triple Entente? Britain, France, and Russia. At the time, Russia had the largest army in the world. Russia had the largest army in the world. It fought to save the Serbia from Austria. But unfortunately, it lost 2 million soldiers and civilians in First World War. 2 million. That means 20 lakh soldiers and civilians were killed in First World War. The soldiers of Russia had no sufficient force. They had no sophisticated weapons because of the inefficient emperor of Russia, Nicholas II. He was not an efficient emperor. He was inefficient. So the soldiers suffered a lot in the war field, and the people suffered a lot in their own country. So the dissatisfaction grew against him. Soldiers wanted to put an end to the First World War. And at the same time, the farmers in Russia also wanted to redistribute lands. They wanted to get more land to cultivate, for cultivation. There was starvation in 1917. There was also a starvation. Starvation means a famine-like situation. The people had no food availability. The food in the Russia sent to the war fields. So the soldiers had no sufficient food. The farmers had no sufficient food. The farmers have no land to cultivate. These are the situations in Russia. So the farmers, the soldiers wanted to stop war. The women want to get more food. That means more bread. And they also demanded for peace and bread. The farmers wanted more land to cultivate. These are the requirements of people. But the emperor, Russian emperor was called Tsar. I think you know that. Tsar. T-S-A-R. Tsar. That was the title of Russian emperor. But the Tsar did not recognize all these issues. He concentrated only on the war. That is unnecessary for Russia. In February 1917, February 27, February 27, the city of Saint Petersburg. Saint Petersburg. You may locate it on the western part of Russia. It is on the bank of Baltic Sea. On the bank of Baltic Sea. In Saint Petersburg, around 10,000 women took out a rally for peace and rights. For peace and rights. They took out a rally, peace and rights. They wanted to meet the emperor to tell their woes, to tell their difficulties. But the Tsar ordered the army to fire at them. In the firing, 50 demonstrators or 50 women were killed. Without incidents, the soldiers, farmers, women got rage. And they came into fields and they came into streets and fought against the army and also against the Tsar. The situation was out of control. The situation was out of control. So the Tsar decided to abdicate from his throne. That means the Tsar decided to give up his position. He wanted to remain as a common man to save his life. This incident took place on February 27. So this is called February Revolution. After February Revolution, two provisional governments were formed. The first government was formed under the leadership of Prince Love. Prince Love in 1917, March 15. This is a temporary government. Provisional government means temporary government. This government continues up to May 18. This government did not satisfy the aspirations of people. So this government was collapsed. And the second government was formed under the leadership of Alexander Kerensky. 1917, May 18. He was also did not satisfy the people. So automatically the people refused these two governments and they began to do another revolution. These two governments continued the war. They did not redistribute the land. They did not bring the peace. They did not provide the bread. In all aspects, these two governments failed. So the people are getting angry and ready to fight against the two governments. On October 24, 1917, the Bolsheviks gave a call to the people. To dethrone the governments, to collapse the governments. On October 24. So the people of Saint Petersburg and all over Russia fought against the Kerensky government and the collapse of that government. On October 24, this incident was done. This was called October Revolution. But actually, this revolution took place This revolution took place on March 12. This revolution took place in November 7. November 7. February revolution took place in March 12. October revolution took place on November 7. What is the difference among these dates? Russia followed Julian calendar until Russia followed Julian calendar until 1st February 1918. From that day, Russia changed to Gregorian calendar. Until 1st February 1918, Russia followed Julian calendar. After that day, they followed Gregorian calendar. Gregorian calendars. These two calendars, let us discuss these 2 points. Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar. Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar in 45 BC. 45 BC. He was a Roman emperor. Gregorian calendar was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII. Pope Gregory XIII in the year 1582. This calendar was introduced in 45 BC. This calendar was introduced in 1582. Gregorian dates are 13 days ahead of Julian dates. Gregorian dates are 13 days ahead of Julian dates. So these differences are here. These differences are here. And now, every country in this world follow Gregorian calendar. This is the reason for these dates. February revolution took place on March 12. October revolution took place on November 7. If you calculate this date and this date, you can find 13 days difference. This has also 13 days difference. That is the reason for that. February revolution is called March revolution. October revolution is called November revolution also. Next. Next, Bolsheviks and Lenin. March revolution took place in 1917 March. October revolution took place 1917 November 7. This is March 12. There is a gap between these two revolutions, nearly 8 months. In these 8 months, there are so many situations changed. On 16th March, that means after the February revolution, after the March revolution, Lenin came to Russia. Until then, Lenin was in exile. He lived in other countries because of the restrictions of the Tsar. He entered into Russia. When did they enter? March 16. He entered March 16. And he made people aware of the problems of those of their own country. He did not want war. He demanded the ending of war. He demanded the ending of war. And he also promised the soldiers and women to stop war if he come to power. The first one is to stop war. And he also assured the people, and he also assured the women to provide breads if he was supported, to provide breads. Bread means food. He assured women to provide food. And he assured farmers to provide more land, to cultivate land. And he assured industrial workers, to nationalize factories. He assured all the sections of Russian community, if the government formed under his control. So all the sections of soldiers, women, farmers, industry workers supported him. With the support, he made a call to collapse the government. On his call, the people, entire Russia, fought against the Kerensky government, and established a new government under the leadership of Lenin in November 1917. Finally, he established a government. But there are so many problems. First of all, he started negotiations with Germany to stop war. Finally, he made an agreement with Germany in March 1918. He made an agreement with Germany to stop the war. So finally, the Russian army withdrew from the First World War in March 1918. With this act, the soldiers were happy. Next, breads. He provides more food items to the people of Russia. The lands. He nationalized all the land in the country. And redistributed to the farmers. With this act, the farmers were also satisfied. All the factories in Russia are also nationalized. And the maintenance of the factories were also handed over to the industrial labor. The banks were also nationalized. All these are the activities done by Lenin, and he successfully done all these works. But at the same time, there are also some problems to Lenin. Some sections of Russian society opposed the activities of Bolsheviks. That means the activities of Lenin. Who opposed him? The first one is White Army. This is the army of monarchists. Monarchist means kings. The second one is anti-communist soldiers. Anti-communist soldiers. And the third one is rebel socialists. Some socialists were also against Bolsheviks. Rebel socialists. These sections opposed Bolsheviks and fought against Bolsheviks. These sections were helped by the USA, Britain, France, and Germany. Those countries sent arms and money to these groups. With the help of those four countries, these three sections fought against Bolsheviks. But ultimately, the Bolsheviks succeeded and these sections were defeated. These activities took place between 1918 and 1920. These 2 years. This is the period of civil war in Russia. In 1920, finally, the Bolsheviks announced that the Tsar Empire was ended. Different nationals in the Tsar Empire permitted to establish new countries. They gave the freedom to the people. In this way, some nationals formed their own countries. After some years, they rejoined the Russia, and after the rejoining of these countries, there is a confederation started. The name of that confederation was USSR. It was formed in 1924. USSR stands for Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It was established in 1924. But unfortunately, in 1924, Lenin died. After Lenin, Stalin came to power. In our next lesson, we will discuss the activities and policies of Stalin. Once we recapitulate the points, present status. Russia is the largest country in this world. It is nearly 5 times bigger than India. The present president is Vladimir Putin. The first president is Vladimir Lenin. Social conditions in the past. There were some feudal lords in Russia. 10% of feudal lords and 90% of land, and 90% of farmers had 10% of land. That is the main problem in Russia in rural area, in the rural areas of Russia. Russia and First World Wars. Russia suffered a lot in the First World Wars. It was the biggest loser. In the First World Wars. It lost nearly 2 million soldiers and civilians. February Revolution took place on 27 February 1917. It was also called March Revolution. According to our calendar, it was held on March 12. October Revolution took place on October 24. According to our calendar, it took place on November 7. Bolsheviks and Lenin. Bolsheviks was a group of communists. They led the communist movement, and also the revolution. After taking power, Vladimir Lenin became the chairman of the Bolsheviks and also became the president of the country. He made several reforms. And Russian Civil War took place between 1918 and 1920. And the formation of USSR. In 1924, with a combination of 15 countries, USSR was formed. But it was ended in 1991. We will discuss it in our later lessons. Okay, thank you.